Page 143. Why am I blue? Couple new things going on here. Let's talk about this. On page 142 at the top, they talk about syncopated notes. Syncopation. It's kind of neat. It's been around forever. Since the beginning of music, it's been around. Syncopation, you can look up and see what the official definition is, but to me, syncopation is when something happens when I'm not expecting it, or something doesn't happen when I do expect it. Now, most of the time, that's playing a note. I play a note when I don't expect it, that's syncopated. Or I don't play a note when I did expect it, that's syncopated. But it could be just an accent. If I accent a note unexpectedly, that's syncopation. And pretty much all music uses syncopation at one time or another. It's fun. Helps to make it interesting, in my opinion. Now, on page 143 at the top, they introduce a new symbol called a natural sign. It almost looks like a hashtag or a sharp sign, except they've cut a couple little lines off. That's all right. A natural simply takes away the sharp or flat. It makes the key on the piano a white key. That's a natural key. In G major, we have one sharp, F sharps, because this is in the key of G major. Well, if they were to want an F natural, then they'd have to use a natural sign to make it an F natural, because otherwise it's going to be an F sharp automatically. But there's other reasons for using naturals, and we'll get into those too. Now let's talk about why I'm on blue or thing. Look it over. It's 4 lines long. We got a new thing at the bottom called endings, first and second endings. I'll cover those. Treble and bass clef, 4/4 time, and 1 sharp in the key signature, 1 in the key of G major. Make sure you can do the G major scale, at least 1 octave up and down. If you haven't been, you probably ought to go ahead and do the C major scale. You should have been doing the C major scale all along, I just never said it. But you really need to be able to do both of those scales at this point. Let's take it one hand at a time. We got a lot of eighth notes. Right hand, you're starting here. It's 1 and 2 and just broken chords if you look at these notes. That's all. 1 and 2 and 3. See, that's tied. We've had ties before, you just hang on to it. Ties confuse some people. And what I do if I'm getting confused on that is I take the tie away temporarily and I just play all the notes. 1 and 2 and 3 and so the half notes on beat 3. Now once I feel that, then I put the tie back in. I just hang on to the note rather than playing it again. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and then cross over. Now we get the F natural. And again, they need the natural sign because in the key signature it would be a sharp. So here, and you cross over. You need to be able to do this anyway. Should do it in both hands. Not that fast, but you should be able to do that. And eventually you want to do that without looking at the keyboard. Then reach back up because you're out of position now. You're going to come up. Measure 4. 1 and 2. And then B flat. Remember the rules for naturals. It applies from that point on to the rest of the measure. So both of those B's are flatted. And the next measure, all of these B's are flatted. Measure 7 is a B natural. You don't need a natural sign there. It's a B natural anyway because the B flat, the flat sign in the previous measure is only good for that measure. It cancels out once you cross the bar line. However, it is a good idea to be clear. So if you're into writing or arranging music and there's a chance the person reading your music might misinterpret or maybe they'll think you made a mistake or something, be clear. It's better to have the natural sign in measure 7 than to leave it out just because you don't need it. My opinion. Just go down to the bottom. Last measure. You have an F sharp, D sharp here, 4, and then a G, E. You're coming off. Slide off, and you here. So I can connect both of those. 1 and 2 and 3, and because it's tied. Both notes are tied. Left hand, well, you got the primary chords. So here, chord, and then the major 5, you got the 4 chord, and then the 1 chord. And if you remember the 12-bar blues pattern, you got 4 measures of 1 chord. Check it out, 4 measures, and then 2 measures of 4 chord, and then 2 measures of 1 chord, then a 1 measure of 5/7, 1 measure of 4, and 2 measures of 5. They put in a 5/7 there, but it's really 2 measures of 5 if once we understand these endings. Well, yeah. So it's like a 12-bar blues pattern. So we put the notes together, or the hands together, I should say, and just, again, you're going to hesitate all over. That's fine. Just trying to get the fingers to work here. The hand here and here. So it's 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Oh, this is wonderful. You go through and put the hands together. The left hand basically is playing quarter notes or it's resting. Then we do the articulation. Well, lift up, lift up, lift up, lift up, lift up. So just lift up between the slurs. And the left hand, just play them. Not real short, but you can't connect them. Just play them. Later on, when you get into it, you can experiment with different kinds of articulation in the left hand. Maybe you play some of it short, maybe you don't. Experiment. Then finally the dynamics, well, that goes to the right hand, it's melody. Whatever moderately loud is, keep these soft. Third line down, last measure, you're going to crescendo up. I suggest you come down to moderately soft and go back up to moderately loud. So the third line, you're loud or moderately loud. And then just come down and go back up. Back up to moderately loud. And then get softer. And the repeat goes back to the beginning. That's easy. There's no reverse repeat sign. Have we had those yet? I don't know. You go back to the beginning and play all that mess again. Let's talk about these endings at the bottom. First and second ending, the last 2 measures at the bottom. It's got 1 with a line and 2 with a line. We call these endings. The idea is the first time you go through and play it, you play the first ending. The second time you play it, you play the second ending. You skip the first ending because you only do it once. Skip the first ending and you do the second ending. So when I do the last line, the first time it's do the first ending, and then I go back up to the top. Then the second time I do it, the last line, it's then I skip the first ending and I do the second ending. Here. And the hands here is on that last measure. 1 and 2 and 3. So the hands are not together. 1 and here, like so. And the fermata, you just hang on to that for a little while because that's such a lovely sound. Everybody loves it. When I do it with a metronome, I'll double it and hold it for 4 counts instead of 2. Now you'll notice underneath the bottom staff here, they give you the Roman numerals for the chords. The 1 chord, and measure 5 is the 4 chord. Okay, just as long as you understand what's printed here is what I'm after. Doesn't need to be there. We don't need the Roman numerals there, but they're there, so let's understand what they mean. And then finally, it's the pedal. You don't need pedal on it. However, pedal can offer us some contrast to the sound because they'll connect the left hand, which we can't do without pedal, and they add the overtone. So it adds contrast to the piece. Is the last measure the first line? First line, last measure? Yeah. So I'm going to push the pedal down right after I play the notes. And I'm going to lift it up. I can lift it up with the left hand if I want, or I can lift it up as I play the B. Because because the left hand doesn't come up until I do the A. But I can lift the pedal up here. If that's too complicated, lift the pedal up with the left hand. Here, that's fine. But make sure you still lift up the right hand for the phrasing, even though we're covering it up. And all of these pedal markings work the same way. Now, last measure at the bottom, you've had pedal down from measure 11. I lift the pedal up as I play that chord in the last measure, and then no pedal, and then pedal with the half note in the left hand. Here. So to demonstrate the last line going to the second measure, it's here. Here. Like so. It adds some contrast to it. Then finally we need to put this into a blues style playing, because remember, blues, swing, and jazz, those three different kinds of music, you swing the eighth notes. You just automatically do it. They don't have to tell you to do it, nothing. You just do it. And you swing the counting. So it's not 1 and 2 and 3. It's 1 and 2 and 3. You feel it. As far as the tempo goes, or the speed, it says moderately slow blues. Just sort of slow. Just have fun with it. You feel it. You feel the tempo. It's part of interpreting the music. You just feel it. You might play it at different speeds depending on how much coffee you've had to drink or whatever. You feel the tempo. There's no one set speed. It's kind of a range based on feelings. I'd like to play this with you very slowly to double check the notes and the rhythms. I'm not going to do the dynamics. We will do the repeat, the first and second ending. I am going to swing the eighth notes, and I'll pedal it just like it's marked. So I'll give us 4 counts. Let's do it slowly. 1 and 2 and ready and go and. To the top. To the second ending. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and hold 2 off.